Hi, Doug.
Hi, Elaine.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Doug, you are a thought leader in presence-based coaching and leadership development. Could you tell us a bit more about you, about who you are?
Yes, I'm rather eclectic. I draw from a background in experiential education and organization development, and personal work. Having worked with systems and organizations on cultural change and leadership development initiatives for many years, I came to realize how often leaders and organizations sought change by throwing interventions at people lower down in the system, but they never really wanted to change themselves. And I came to see that the cross currents that were set up in organizations when senior leaders didn't really understand or embody the changes they sought in the organization, that so often the efforts were didn't amount to anything. And so I really shifted about 15 years ago from a work primarily in systems and organizations to working specifically with leaders and developing a coaching methodology that would produce deep and sustainable change and support of larger system initiatives. And so that work has incorporated mindfulness and somatics and developmental psychology, leadership theory, interpersonal neurobiology. I'm a big picture thinker, and I really love synthesis. And so this body of work has integrated a lot of different streams in what I think is a pretty exciting methodology for supporting leaders in meeting the challenges that they face in new ways.
Yeah, very interesting. And if you would say, what is really unique about your approach, what would that be?
Well, I think there are several things that are unique. One is that we use, more than most coaching methodologies, we use what's arising right here in this moment, in this conversation, as content for the conversation. We're not just talking about hypotheticals, what will you do out there in the world in this situation. We're also talking about right now, here and now, in this relationship that we're in. And we use the client's present moment experience of themselves as information. And so leaders come to coaching because they face enormous challenges. They're integrating two businesses, or they move to a new level of responsibility, or they're launching some new product or service or a new business. But those external challenges inevitably require some level of internal reflection or internal development. As Marshall Goldsmith says, what got us here won't get us there. And so we tend to rely on our strengths and our habits because those have become embodied under stress. That's what we naturally draw from. But when we're in a situation that is changing rapidly, as we all are, then what has become embodied as habits from the past is often not what's most helpful. And so those habits get revealed in the moment all the time. And we begin to use those as important information for the conversation itself. So we think really, Hélène, of presence not just being a coaching competency, but it also is an outcome for clients.
Especially, Doug, how does it work in cooperation, for example? I understand for a coach, it's very important to have this presence. What about leadership and what about cooperation?
I think leaders and corporations have to be present just as much as we do as coaches. And coaching methodologies that don't develop the capacity for presence in the client, I think, are under-delivering. And so we can talk to our leader clients about behaviors that they should change or a new behavior they should cultivate, but if they can't be present to themselves, if they can't recognize in themselves the urge to act in a particular way that is habitual, then they can't actually interrupt that urge and take a different action, even though we may have talked about it. So this capacity for presence, I believe, Hélène, underpins everything else we're working on. It's the key to resilience. It's the key to sustainable behavior change, and that presence is most directly accessed through channeling our awareness into the present moment, into what Robert Keegan calls the subject-object move, where we take what we are subject to and we put it out here where we can see it. And so I work with nuclear plant managers and technology executives and bankers and educators. I work across all different sectors, but the commonality of what makes us human and how our very aspirations tend to become limiting, our strengths become weaknesses, that cuts across all sectors.
When I'm hearing you, it comes to my mind a question. Do you remember an experience you had with one of these top leader or manager, and you used this type of approach, and what kind of results did you get from that man or that person, if it comes to you?
Yeah, so this kind of approach is always embedded in what I do. I can think of a couple of key moments with very powerful clients who were unconscious about the impact they had on their people. And so I would ask them to speak something that they cared about, and they would say those words, and then I would ask them to change the shape and the position in which they were sitting and say the same words again. You could feel the difference. It wasn't like they were looking in the mirror, or even that I gave them feedback, though those also could be components of it, but they could actually feel the difference.
Yeah.
So if I say what I'm excited about, but my body is hunched over like this, and then I say the same thing from a body that's like this, that's open and long, the experience, the felt experience of that is completely different. And that opens up a conversation about congruence, about leadership presence, about authenticity. And rather than somebody else giving them that feedback on a 360-degree assessment process, they experience it in their body. They know that there's something that is important to tune into there. And so that can be a real attention getter. And then we can begin to experiment with, well, how does this person hold their body in meetings, for example, and what impact does the shape of that body have on other people in the meeting? So for engineers and scientists and executives that tend to be analytical and hard charging, we're actually asking them to investigate themselves, to be a researcher.
Well, look, thank you very much for this, especially this comment, and your approach. It seems really very, very fascinating. So we are looking forward to see you and meet you in September in our training, and thank you again.
And thank you for the invitation, the opportunity to have this conversation, and I look forward to the group in September. It'll be great.
Thank you very much, Doc. Thank you.
Thank you.